News!
Okay, we'll start with this. Gento Nakatani's coach reveals mistake leading to Inoue loss. They engaged in a high-level chess match for the first third of the fight before Nakatani kicked the fight into second gear to make it an enthralling encounter as he challenged the undisputed super bantamweight king. I'm very proud of Gento's performance, Hernandez told The Ring. After putting thought into it, I believe that I probably failed Gento by holding him back in the first few rounds of the fight. It was my doing to have him start the way that he did. You'll remember that he was very careful at the start, seemingly working off the counter, letting Inoue dictate the action. The champion was doing most of the work, whereas Gento was quite reactionary. During the fight, I know that Gento listens to me and will do what's asked of him, and he doesn't question it. The reason our initial plan went longer than it should have was that I knew Inoue has a very good IQ, speed and power. He's the entire package. My whole thing was to try and stay one step behind so that we can catch him once Inoue got close using his speed. But during the fight, it turned out that Gento was just as fast as Inoue. It wasn't about fighting. It was about trying to be in control and working on timing to catch Inoue. That was the plan. We didn't want to lose any rounds. We made it a fight. But we started too late. You live and you learn. Nakatani lost the first 4 rounds on the scorecards and eventually dropped the decision by scores of 115-113 and 116-112 on 2 judges' scorecards. Nakatani had tremendous success from rounds 5 through 10 before getting his left orbital bone broken in the 11th from an uppercut. Every round was very competitive and probably could have gone either way, Hernandez said. Once Gento got going, you saw the momentum he built and he was looking really solid. That was part of the plan as well. The headbutt in the 10th that caused the cut near his left eyebrow didn't factor in the result of the fight, but the uppercut that broke Gento's orbital bone early on in the 11th did change the outcome of the fight. You saw that. Gento was hurt and went straight into defensive mode, but he didn't tell me until after the fight that he had hurt his eye. Until the eye injury, Gento was on a roll. Everything was working and his confidence was growing. He was taking it to Inoue. You heard it there, from the horse's mouth, because I saw a lot of people after the fight talking about that headbutt. And I wouldn't even call it a headbutt, because in doing that, you make it seem like he did it on purpose. That was an accidental clash of heads. That happens. But you heard it there from Rudy Hernandez himself. The clash of heads did not affect the outcome of the fight, but getting his orbital broken, that did. There's no secret to it. The rematch would be round 13, and we wouldn't be in a feeling out process and showing the same respect that we had in this fight, he said. We know that we are extremely competitive now, that we can beat him now more than ever. I have a lot of respect for Inoue. I consider him to be the best fighter in the world. Congratulations to him for winning the decision. The right guy won, but there is a but. It would be honorable if Inoue gave us a rematch. It would be no different than how we gave Nonito Donaire a rematch. Gento is worthy of a rematch. I see the parallel that Rudy is drawing, if not for one fundamental flaw. Inoue didn't go into an immediate rematch with Nonito Donaire, and he didn't give him a rematch for the sake of giving him a rematch. It was because Nonito, after their initial meeting, became a champion again by beating then unbeaten champion Nordine Ubali. It wasn't about honor. It was about undisputed. Inoue had to fight Nonito again to take that belt from him. To become undisputed. Where Gento is shit out of luck is Inoue already has all the belts at this weight. Immediately after the fight, conversation quickly shifted to a potential fight between Inoue and Bam Rodriguez, the Ring Magazine, WBA, WBC, and WBO super flyweight champion, who's getting ready to make his bantamweight debut against Antonio Vargas next month. Hernandez said that if Rodriguez wants to get his feet wet at 122, he should fight Nakatani first to earn the right to fight Inoue. He added that Rodriguez wouldn't reach a fight against Inoue because Nakatani would blast him inside of 8 rounds, doubling down on a similar statement he made last year. I believe that by Inoue giving us a rematch, he'd make more money, and it'd be a bigger event in Japan than him fighting Rodriguez, said Rudy. I hope it happens. I also believe that the rematch is more feasible. Let's do it in December, and let the better man win. Would it be bigger in Japan? Maybe to the Japanese people, to the Japanese boxing fans, but on the premise of it making more money, Inoue making more money, remember who's paying for the Bam fight. Turkey's paying for the Bam fight, and he's not going to cheap out. By now we all know that. I don't know that a Junto Nakatani rematch would draw the same crowd, have the same reaction, and generate the same revenue, whereas with Turkey and Bam, you know you're gonna cash in, you know you're gonna make money. I'm not against a rematch for Junto, but what needs to happen for that to happen? You can do the best of the rest thing, where you take on Marlon Tapales, MJ Akhmadaliev, Luis Neri, Ramon Cardenas, any one of them or all four, while you rebuild yourself in the super bantamweight division. You stay there, you stay put. You fight those guys and remind people what you can do. And you do it with Rudy in the corner because you make a great team, and that much is established. So often, after a fighter loses a fight, they decide to make changes to the corner. Sometimes it's needed, and sometimes it isn't. And this is one of those times where it isn't. You didn't lose that fight because of Rudy Hernandez. You lost it because you fought the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. There's no shame in that. You've had a lot of success with Rudy Hernandez in the corner, so you keep him there and build upon what you've learned from your initial meeting with Inoue, who doesn't seem to be moving up to the featherweight division, making a second fight between them a possibility. If Junto Nakatani does the best of the rest thing over there in Japan, in lucrative and fascinating fights against common opponents between him and Inoue, I could see the rematch becoming a viable option. Tell me you wouldn't want to see him fight Ramon Cardenas or Luis Neri. Those would be great fights.
In the UFC, whatever, he couldn't even fill that out.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you have to have a crowd also. You have to have fans in order to make big fights happen. You could be the best in the world, but if you don't sell, you don't sell. Now, if you're a YouTuber and you sell, guess what? You're going to get what you want, because we're seeing that now these days. There are guys that have a lot of followers and they get paid more than fighters, than real fighters, So at the end of the day, it's numbers. It's all about numbers.
Except that you don't need to worry about Jai Opetaia's numbers and what he brings, because Turkey brings the numbers, and he would be the one presumably paying for the fight, not Dana White, not Zuffa. I'm gonna keep saying this because the other content creators won't. No one is asking David Benavidez to go over to Zuffa and box for a Zuffa belt on Paramount. This is not a sides of the street argument. This is a fight that could easily be made for one of Turkey El Al-Sheikh's Ring Magazine or Riyadh Season cards, at least one of which David has boxed on when he boxed Anthony Yard. And what did Anthony Yard bring to the table? Was he at least a Ring Magazine and lineal champion like Jai Opetaia? Because you were okay to fight him, and you were okay to fight David Morrell. What was David Morrell's drawing power? What was his marquee value? Because the more you talk down Jai Opetaia as a fighter and as an attraction, the more you give it away. You're just afraid of this guy because you fought other people that brought even less to the table than he does. He at least brings Turkey to the table, and that's the money. It is a numbers game. 99.9% of the time it is, up until Turkey El Al-Sheikh arrives in the boxing space more than willing to overpay fighters. He would overpay you to fight him. These are the guys who claim to have usurped Cinco de Mayo from Canelo Alvarez and dethroned him as the face of boxing. But Canelo didn't reject a fight with William Skull because nobody knew him. Or John Ryder. When they go up to the light heavyweight division for a second time to face a little-known Dmitry Bivol, who many casual boxing fans didn't know at the time, you didn't see them saying, well, we're not going to fight this guy because nobody knows him, the way that Jose is saying that about Jai Opetaia, because that's just an excuse. For a large portion of your career, you were fighting guys that nobody knows. So that can't be the reason you're not fighting this guy. You're not fighting this guy because he's a threat. It's getting repetitive. I'll level with you. If I felt that David Benavidez were serious about going back to light heavyweight and boxing Dmitry Bivol for the undisputed crown, I would give him a pass. I would say that is permissible. Not fighting Jai because you're going to fight Dmitry. The problem is, I don't think he's going to fight Dmitry. I don't think he's going to go back down to light heavyweight, and that's why just 2 days after his fight with Zurdo, what's he talking about? He's talking about a 190-pound catch weight. Buddy, what you're talking about is staying at cruiser. Which is what I said he was going to do. His fans hate to admit it, but you guys know how much I repeat myself on the channel. I do that on purpose, for moments just like this, so you can remember what I said. He's gonna go up to Cruiser, he's gonna beat Zerto, then afterwards, he's gonna call on Dimitri and Artur to move up, because when a guy moves up, they don't come back down. That rarely ever happens. And in the few instances it does, it's not for big cuts, really big weight cuts, like dropping upwards of 25 to 50 pounds to go back to light heavyweight. David is in between fights right now. You think he's walking around at a fit and trim 200 even? You're either stupid or pretending to be. The collective common sense of the boxing community has been abandoned to buy into this idea that David would return to the light heavyweight division. The jump from a light heavyweight to cruiser isn't just a few pounds like with other weight classes. You're talking about 25 pounds.
Benavidez went on the Porter Weight podcast, and he offered up a catch weight versus Bivol of 190 pounds. And he says, oh, this way, the cruiserweight title could be on the line, the light heavyweight title could be on the line. Bivol has talked about wanting to fight for the cruiserweight title. He's already retreating from 175. It's also just like, I don't think that can happen, because I believe light heavyweight, isn't there a limit of 175 pounds? It wasn't like the same bravado and like, yeah, 175 next, Bivol next.
I had a little trepidation fight week when he was saying, I feel so good, you're going to see the best version of me. Because if you go out there and you do exactly what he did, you're not going to want to leave the weight class. You're going to want to struggle and get back down to 75 when you literally look your best at this weight. The writing was kind of on the wall with that. And now that he's alluding to that, that tells me that he's probably not going back down to 75 again, which is a real shame, because I know I really want that Bivol fight.
So finally, after the dust is settled after Saturday's action, people are starting to say it, starting to see it, that you don't go up from 175 up to cruiser, win 2 belts, then drop back down. Why the fuck would anybody think that he would? The difference between me and them is I didn't wait until after the fight, until after David mentioned the catch weight to say this. I've been saying this since before the fight. He's not coming back down. You may have already seen the last of him as a light heavyweight. The truth is often unpopular and it ruffles feathers, but what's the point in even talking if you're not going to tell the truth? And the truth is, David's campaign at light heavyweight was never going to be that long to begin with, because light heavyweight from super middle is not that far off, and this is a big boy. What if I told you he was already busting at the seams once he arrived at light heavyweight, that he still felt tight at the weight? And between the time that he fights Alexander Vozdik and fights David Morrell, he was already talking about moving up to cruiser, because he was already tight at the weight. And what if I told you that the whole mandatory situation between the WBC and Bivol wasn't about getting a Bivol fight, it was about getting an email. An email belt emailed to him, because they knew that Dimitri was busy, if not with the IBF's mandatory, with Artur Beterbiev. Don't forget the back surgery. It was never about getting Dimitri in the ring, it was about making him look bad some other way. They knew they weren't going to fight him, and I don't think they're going to fight him now. Not at 175. They would have to wait for Dimitri to settle affairs in the light heavyweight division, then move up on his own, which I would put it next year in the second quarter, at the earliest. And I'd love to be wrong about this, but I don't think I am. I haven't been yet. David's doing exactly what I said he was going to do on the schedule that I said he was going to do it. And so, for the Dimitri Bivol fight that you're going to end up not having at the end of this year, why don't you just skip the foreplay and fight Jai Opetaia? You just proved you can handle yourself at cruiser. Now go handle him! Over to the men's heavyweight division and this weekend's WBO heavyweight title fight, Fabio Wardley predicts statement knockout against Daniel Dubois as he explains his clear advantage. Fabio Wardley believes he has a clear advantage over Daniel if their heavyweight title clash enters deep waters, but the champion is still confident. He can stop Dubois at any moment if his opponent puts the pressure on early. And that is what Daniel Dubois does. That's what he does best. He's no boxer's boxer. He's no sugarfoot fighter. He is a bruiser, unapologetically, which is a big part of the reason he's so fun to watch. Wardley makes his first defense of the WBO heavyweight title in Manchester this Saturday against London's Dubois. The undefeated 31-year-old from Ipswich won the interim version of the belt in October and was upgraded to full champion after Usyk vacated the title. Wardley handpicked Dubois from a list that included Filip Prgovic, Jared Anderson, and Nelson Heisa because he's the most dangerous one, and he wanted to give the fans the best fight possible. Do you really think that's what it is? Not necessarily. I actually think he picked Danny because the Danny fight pays him the most. It's more marketable than the other fights. The champion is currently the favorite going in, as many boxing enthusiasts favor him if Dubois can't get him out early. In Wardley's eyes, he has the advantage in the later rounds, but he backs himself in all departments nonetheless. It depends on what version of Daniel shows up and what voice has been in his ear. In terms of the training corner and what they say to him, Wardley said, describing what he believes will be the narrative of the fight. If they tell him to stay away from me early on, if anything, that reveals their hand, that they're a bit shy in a sense of wanting to compete with me level on in them early stages. Maybe they think it's better for him to box and stay away. When has Daniel ever done that? From the beginning of his career till now, when has Danny ever been a Sugarfoot fighter? Even then, I think that's bad advice. I don't think that plays into his benefit or his skills. I'll run him over in the trenches, in the deep waters. That's where I'm at my best. That's where I compete at my best and have a clear advantage over Daniel. If he wants to meet me there, then best of luck to him, but I don't think he will. One way or another, he's going. He's going out of there. Wardley has scored late, dramatic stoppages in his last 2 fights. After exacting revenge on a draw with Fraser Clark by finishing his fellow Briton in the first round, Wardley overcame early adversity last June to knock out Justice Hooney at Portman Road in Ipswich. Hooney, who was previously unbeaten and had stepped in for Jarrell Miller on 5 weeks' notice, had won almost every round until he was floored with a monstrous right hand. Wardley did the same to Joseph Parker in his last fight, stopping the Aussie heavyweight in the 11th round of a brutal war. Having been behind on the scorecards, the Ipswich man was hoping to get a shot at Usyk through his win over Parker, but will no doubt put himself back in the driver's seat to face the Ukrainian should he win in Manchester. The question is, will he? This is a genuinely tough fight to call for me because while Fabio Wardley does pack that one-hitter-quitter, that equalizer, to where if it lands at any point in the fight, he can finish it, he also takes a lot of damage before that happens. He gets hit a lot. That's scar tissue on the bridge of his nose, and Danny boy, I think he can cut him. I think he can hurt him. I think he's a bigger puncher than Justice Hooney and Joseph Parker, to where if he lands anywhere near as much as they did, listen, that kid hits so hard he won't have to. He can finish the fight. Putting the shoe on the other foot, Daniel Dubois has the same deficiencies now that he's always had. He doesn't move his head. I mean, Fabio could be shadowboxing in his bathroom and still hit this kid with a jab. The point being, they're both flawed. They're both hittable. They both take a lot of punishment, and they both hit hard. So I suppose it's then a question of who lands and who lands first. I do think Fabio's got the snappier punches of the two. I think he's quicker to the draw than Zeniel. The bookies do too, and that's why they've got him as the favorite, but Daniel really looks up for this. He be coming off a loss to Usyk, but Fabio ain't Usyk. I haven't locked in a pick just yet. I still haven't. I will tomorrow. I'm not gonna ride bitch. Not gonna ride the fence. I'll make up my mind, but like I said, this is a tough one.